Stop wasting your mornings. There's a version of your life you will never touch if you keep living your mornings the way you do now. Read that again. Not because your morning has to be perfect, not because you need a 3-hour ritual with green juice, ice baths, and a sun salutation on a mountain, but because the way you live the first 60 minutes of your day is quietly deciding who you are allowed to be in the next 24 hours. And right now, whether you notice it or not, your mornings are making that decision for you. Let me paint a scene. The alarm goes off. Before your mind is even fully online, your hand already knows what to do. It reaches, not for water, not for a notebook, for the phone. Light hits your eyes before reality does. In less than 10 seconds, your nervous system has been dropped into other people's lives, other people's bodies, other people's success, other people's crises. You have barely remembered your own name, and your brain is already processing a flood of information. It did not ask for. This is how most people start their day, in reaction, in comparison, in overstimulation. And then they wonder why, by 10 a.m., they feel scattered, behind, unsatisfied, vaguely anxious for reasons they can't explain. It's not a mystery. You gave your morning away. Here's what neuroscience and psychology agree on, whether they're talking about productivity, mood, or behavior change. How you enter the day shapes the entire architecture of your attention. Your brain is not a machine you flip on. It's more like wet cement in the first minutes you're awake. Whatever lands on it leaves prints that harden over the next hours. If the first thing that lands is chaos, notifications, feeds, messages, alarms, emails, you harden around chaos. You normalize urgency. You normalize scattered focus. You normalize reacting to everything that asks for you instead of deliberately choosing what actually matters. The cruel part? It feels normal. You call it just checking. You call it waking up. You call it seeing what's going on. But what's really going on is this. You are training your nervous system to be led, not by your values, not by your priorities, by whatever shouts the loudest. I want to introduce you to someone. We'll call him Daniel. Daniel had convinced himself he was not a morning person. He worked late, woke up late, rushed out the door, and lived in a constant low-grade state of catching up. He believed his problem was discipline, or time, or maybe the fact that he just didn't function before coffee. He was wrong. His problem wasn't the clock, it was ownership. His mornings didn't belong to him. They belonged to everyone and everything else. On the rare days he woke up early to fix it, he did what most people do. He tried to install a perfect routine overnight. No phone, workout, meditation, reading, journaling, all at once. It lasted 3 days. Not because he was weak, but because he was trying to build a cathedral on wet sand. Here's what finally changed everything for him. He stopped trying to fix the entire morning. He chose to reclaim the first 15 minutes. There is a dangerous myth about mornings. The myth says, if you can't do it perfectly, it's not worth it. If you can't wake up at 5 a.m. and run 10K, why bother? If you can't meditate for 30 minutes, why sit for 3? If you can't read a whole chapter, why read 2 pages? That mindset is not an accident. It's one of the most effective ways the mind protects the status quo. Because as long as all or nothing is the rule, nothing keeps winning. The truth is less glamorous and far more powerful. Tiny, boring, fiercely protected actions, repeated daily, will alter your life more violently than any heroic, unsustainable burst of effort. So instead of asking, what is the perfect morning routine? Ask this. What is the smallest non-negotiable that would make my morning mine again? Let's talk about what it means to waste a morning. Wasting. Your morning is not about being lazy, sleeping in, or failing to fit into some productivity aesthetic. Wasting your morning means this. You start your day disconnected from yourself. You let the first thing you see, hear, and feel be designed by someone else. A notification, an algorithm, a message, a problem. You don't check in with your own mind before you check in with the world. You skip the one window of time where your brain is the most programmable, the most open, the most sensitive to influence and the liminal zone between sleep and full wakefulness, and you hand it over to noise. That is waste, because those minutes are not neutral, they are leverage, and if you're not using that leverage consciously, something else is. So what does reclaiming your morning actually look like? Not in theory. In practice, It does not look like waking up and turning into an entirely different person overnight. It looks like this. You open your eyes. You notice the urge to grab your phone. You don't fight it with drama. You simply insert one breath before you move. A full inhale, a full exhale. In that breath you remember, this is my morning, not the world's. You sit up, feet on the floor, and before you take in anything external, you do one small thing that points your mind in the direction you actually want to go. It could be drinking a glass of water in silence and feeling it wake your body, writing down 3 sentences, how you feel, what you need, what matters today, looking out the window and finding one thing you're genuinely grateful exists, stretching your body for 60 seconds, noticing where you're tense and letting it go, closing your eyes and asking yourself, if I could only do one meaningful thing today, what would it be? And listening, that's it. 5 minutes, maybe less. But those 5 minutes are not random. They are a signal. They tell your nervous system, we are starting from intention, not from reaction. And that signal changes the way you experience everything that follows. Here's what most people don't understand about behavior. You are not just doing things. You are always proving something to yourself. Every morning, with your first actions, you are answering a question you don't even know you're asking. Who am I today? Am I someone who numbs out first thing? Am I someone who hides from my own thoughts? Am I someone who lets urgency swallow me whole? Or am I someone who takes myself seriously enough to give myself 5 undisturbed minutes? You may think that sounds dramatic. It is, because identity is not built in grand gestures. It's built in repeated micro-choices. The morning is the purest place those micro-choices live. You're not exhausted yet. You haven't made 100 decisions. You're not deep in your roles and obligations. You are as close as you will be all day to yourself. So if you won't choose yourself then, when will you? Let's come back to Daniel. He didn't become a morning person. He became a person who no longer handed his first 15 minutes away. He set one rule: no inputs before intention, no phone, no news, no messages, no quick check. He woke up, sat on the edge of his bed, placed his feet on the ground, and asked himself just 2 questions out loud. How am I really? What matters, actually? Sometimes the answers were honest and ugly. I'm tired. I'm anxious. I don't want to do any of it. But he listened anyway. Then he chose one action that honored those answers and his values at the same time. Tired, 5 minutes of stretching instead of a hard workout. Anxious, 3 pages of journaling the storm out of his head. Unmotivated, one small, clearly defined task that would move his day forward by 1%. 15 minutes every day, no performance, no perfection. 2 months later, his entire life felt different. Not because the external circumstances had changed dramatically, but because he was no longer arriving into his life already absent. He was there. Maybe you hear all this and a part of you whispers, I've tried, I always fall back. Listen to that voice. That voice is not the problem. The problem is what you do with it. If you make it a prophecy, I always fail, so why try? Your mornings will continue to be the graveyard of good intentions. But if you treat that voice as information, as a map of where your nervous system is afraid, where your past experiences have taught you to expect disappointment, then your mornings can become something else. A lab. Not a stage where you audition for a better self, but a laboratory where you gently experiment with what actually supports you. Some days your experiment will fail. You'll grab the phone. You'll scroll. You'll fall straight into the old pattern. Those days are not proof that you're hopeless. They are data. The question is not, did I ruin the day? The question is, how quickly can I come back? The morning is powerful, but it is not the only doorway. You can reclaim the next hour. You can reclaim the afternoon. You can reclaim the night. The more you practice returning, the less power any single wasted morning has over your identity. Now I want to ask you something directly. If someone filmed your first 30 minutes every day for a week and then showed it to you as if it were a stranger's life, what story would you tell about that person? Would you say they respect themselves? Would you say they're on their own side? Would you say they're going somewhere? Or would you feel a little heartbreak watching how quickly they abandon themselves? Be honest, because honesty is the doorway. Not shame, not self-attack. Honesty. Once you see clearly, you can choose differently. And choosing differently does not start with buying a new alarm clock, or finding the perfect morning playlist, or copying someone else's 4 a.m. routine. It starts with one simple, radical decision. My mornings are not up for negotiation anymore. So here is your invitation. Tomorrow morning, don't become a new person, just don't repeat the exact same script. Insert one breath before the phone. Take 5 minutes for yourself, before the world gets a single second. Ask yourself what you need before you ask what they need. Then do one small action that answers that question. That's all. Do it badly. Do it tired. Do it with messy hair and no aesthetic. Just do it. And then do it again the next day, and the next, and the next. Let the world stay loud. Let the notifications pile up for 5 minutes. Let the messages wait. You've been waiting on yourself for years. You can ask them to wait for 5 minutes. You don't need a perfect morning to change your life. You need a claimed morning. You need to stop giving away the most programmable, most sacred, most influential part of your day to things that don't love you. Because your phone doesn't love you. The feed doesn't love you. The urgency doesn't love you. But there is a part of you that does. Let that part be the first voice you hear. Stop wasting your mornings. They are not just the beginning of your day. They are the quiet engine of the person you are becoming.